Bienvenido de el Ciudad de Mexico, or in English, welcome to Mexico City and race 8 out of 22 of our second MRS season. The mainstream racing series continues tonight. And as our driver's lobby is filling up, let's have a short look at the track. This is the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, the highest altitude of the whole race calendar, 2.2 kilometers of altitude. What is a big problem in real life, but no problem in virtual worlds, of course. The track features 17 turns, is 4.3 kilometers of length. Lap record, Valtteri Bottas in 2018, a 118.7. That, I suppose, our drivers will blast by around 3 or 3.5 seconds later in the qualifying. This is the list of assists that we use. And so the pit assists are off, manual gearbox and maximally medium traction control. Our lobby 17 drivers have checked in. As far as I know, it should be 18, so not a total grid tonight. We will have a 18 minutes qualifying followed by a 50% race distance, what should be something around 35 laps later or so. And yeah, full vehicle dynamic, of course. Dynamic weather, this is sometimes a topic, at least more often than you could expect from a race in Mexico. We see regular corner cutting, so not the strict version, because we do not want our races to be decided by penalty seconds, and in Mexico you can or could pile up a lot of seconds with corner cutting and especially track limits. And full rules and flags, safety car, VSC, all of that is set to on, of course. Yeah, good evening to Mixner and Rockstar, Jack Rocknean and Miko Caruso, who have already checked into our live chat box, as they still can talk or write. Good evening to you and good luck to everyone, of course. And let's have a short look about the lobby, who has already checked in. Our host David Lawson once again, of course. Zemo is there. And Sam Clark, Captain Infinity, one of our reserves who has jumped into a car. And very important is that K Delay and D Killer are back. That is Kantan and Ricky Kuao, the two of the three Swiss connection. They are back in the race car. They have moved to another flat and were short on internet connection the last 2 weeks, and today obviously everything seems fine again for them, so they are back into action. One thing I want to speak out right now, as this league is very, very British, you can see the flags next to the names. Our admins have decided that we will have a silent minute in wake of death of Prince Philip just a few days ago. So the first minute of the qualifying will be silent. No driver is meant to go out on the track, and neither will I talk to you for a minute. So the qualifying will actually then really start with 17 minutes left on the clock. So, and off we go. Our plane has liftoff, and here we are already in Mexico with these first pictures. This is one of the greatest pictures of the whole game, of the whole tracks. This is the baseball stadium Forosol, home of the Diablos Rojos del Mexico, the Red Devils of Mexico City. Here you can see the picture again, 45,000 of virtual audience here in the baseball stadium. Very nice thing to drive through the baseball stadium when it's full and when you can hear the crowds chanting at you. So, and here we are now in the pit lane, and I will stay silent for a minute. So, the first minute is officially over, the silent minute of, in wake of the death of Prince Philip, who died at the age of 99. We had that sadly already 2 or 3 weeks ago, silent minute in one of our sessions. But now, here we go. The qualifying has officially started. A little bit of a tradition of mine is to ride with the first one who goes out on an outlap to have a bit of... to get a bit of a feel for the track. And this is right now Blake Gary. Gary 71, first one on his outlap. And... yeah, let's get in a few informations that we need. Well, we see Blake Gary, who has almost lost it on his outlap while warming up the tires. Maybe a little bit too aggressively warming up his soft tires. I have already read in the background chat that there will be rain. Not now, not in the quali, but it will be rainy in the race. So, just as I mentioned, rain in Mexico happens a bit more often than you could assume. And Blake Gary, as we are already with him here on the TV screen, he was one of the 2 drivers who were featured in our this week's drivers interview. Yesterday evening, Blake Gary and Mark Grimo Goodman were guests of me in our interview live stream, and Blake Gary is very close to Peter Simpson, right ahead of him. I don't know if that is a good idea to be that close in a qualifying lap, but anyway, here we go. This is the first hot lap of Blake Gary while we are sitting on his shoulder. Here we run down the second longest straight in the whole season, 2.2 kilometers of length, and the longest rundown after the start to the first turn. So good start is incredible, important here tonight. First turns are just 90-degree turns, 90-degree right here again at the beginning of sector 2, just around the block once or twice you could say. And now we go into the unrhythmic fast and medium pace turns in sector 2, and on regular corner cut you can take them a little bit easier, but right here the car is very light. You can very easily lose the car, especially then when we are in the race, when the car is heavy with a lot of fuel in the beginning. And here we go into Forosol, the baseball stadium packed with audience cheering at Blake Gary here right now. One last right-hander, and that is 1 lap in the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and Blake Gary's time, a 1:15 point something, is good for P3 at the moment, 1.9 seconds He is already now behind by Simo. So Simo Peter Simpson 113.6 already blasted the real life lap record by multiple seconds, just as expected. And yeah, now we get the first times in. A lot of drivers on hot laps. Actually, only Rockstar and Mikko Caruso. Only one on an out lap, and a handful of drivers still in the garage. And who else could we bring in? Who else could we watch right now who is in hot lap? Let's maybe jump right to Grimo, Mark Goodman, the second driver of the interviews yesterday evening, as I mentioned, is rewatchable on my channel, of course, in case you want to get a bit better feel for our MIS drivers. We have, Grimo Goodman taking a very wide lane there, so this lap should probably be ruined due to these problems. Yes, he has aborted his hot lap. It's just getting out of the way in case there is someone behind him. And Grimo will probably then return to his pit crew and get some fresh soft tire mounted. Looks like he does just that. The latest comment in the chat box. Good evening to you boys from the Slydog Racing League. Cool that you watch the MRS here tonight. Enjoy the stream while we see Grimo, who has to wait until he is put into his garage. His teammate Andrew Mont just came into the pits right in front of him. So now Mikko Caruso, the Rockstar, is the only one on a hot lap. Here we go. Right in the last sector. Didn't miss the braking point for turn 15. That might have costed him already a bit of time. Where will the clock stop for the Mercedes? Only in P9. 1.9 seconds behind Simo. I had a chat with Caruso just by today when he told me that he discovered that he is a lot faster if he does not use the racing line. That is really interesting. I haven't heard such a theory yet, but okay. That is his new taste. So Mikko Caruso is now racing tonight the first time, at least first time in MIS, with the racing line disabled. And the first hot lap was not that competitive, but at least he got a time set, so he will at least not be in last position then in the race. That is already for sure. Yeah, let's have a look. What else is going on in P13? Just because he didn't set a time yet, here is Kantan K Delay, who has just finished his first hot lap, and he is 1.2 seconds behind Peter Simpson. Have a look as we get closer to the midway mark. No one thus far has been able to stay just within a second of Peter Simpson. That is interesting. One of the topics I wanted to speak out, wanted to talk to you, to get closer to you in the qualifying, is our overall standings. There now, after the last race, after the race in Suzuka, Peter Simpson, Simo is the overall leader. Simo has a very special kind of a season, because from the 7 races we had, he finished only 4, but all 4 of them he won. And so he has a 100% victory statistic in case he sees the checkered flag. And due to the fact that Kantan was not able to race due to the moving to another flat, as I mentioned already a bit earlier, Simo took the overall lead from him, because after the first 4 or 5 races, Kantan looked very, very comfortable in the lead, but he is not anymore. And we finally have a driver who has managed to get into a second of Simo. That is Zemixna by the name of Jack Rocknan in the first or second Ferrari. and at least one driver who is able to get somewhat close to Zemo, who has just gone on an outlap again. So, but speaking about the overall standings, while we depict Captain Infinity Sam Clark, we see Peter Simpson in the lead, followed by Khan, who is short 2 races and short of Peter Simpson by 9 points. So just 9 points behind him now, as we are just after the first third of the season. So still a long way to go. In third, Tom Walsh, who is sitting right now in 4th position. And 4th, then in our overall standings, there's a big gap. Tom Walsh behind by 15 points behind Peter Simpson. And in 4th, then we see Stefan Williams with minus 42 points. So a huge gap between P3 and P4 in case Williams wants to stay alive in the championship run. He must score a whole lot of points tonight. He might even is already in a need to win if he wants to stay alive. Then we see a gap, and in P7 only sitting our reigning champion from the last season, the Season 1 champion. That's Dominic Walsh, who has pushed himself into P3 here in the qualifying. But Dominic Walsh has already a gap of 50 points on Peter Simpson. 50 points in just 7 races. That's really a lot. So yeah, Dominic Walsh did definitely not have a good start of his Season 2. So that will be interesting if he can come back later in the season. Actually, there is not a lot of time to wait, so he needs to come back, and that's got to be actually right now. So as the quali takes a moment of a breather, a little bit of a break, there is another statistics, of course, our Constructors Championship. And there we see the Racing Points leading with 123 points. So Thomas Walsh and his teammate Mike Taylor, who is in P8 right now, are doing a pretty good job. And who can we jump to at the moment? Let's maybe have a look at someone we didn't have in the picture yet. That's Leonard Cam, our only Scotsman, Stuart MacDonald, who is at the end of Sector 2 here, and he found a little bit of time. He improved by 2/10. Sadly, his teammate is missing tonight. That's Guziga Zimpa, Simon Gustafsson by his name, from Sweden. So the only Scotsman and the only Swede. Our drivers from McLaren, Leonard Cam, improving himself a little bit, but that did not give him a push up in the order, only in P12. Just 0.03 of a tenth in front of his teammate, his reserving teammate, Sam Clark. And we have seen a position change somewhere ahead. I couldn't catch the detail. Might have been Kantan, who pushed into P7. Let's have a look who else is on a hot lap. Maybe our host, David Lawson here. Already in the last sector in the Forosol Stadium. He's looking into an improvement of 2/10. Last long right-hander for him, double apex. He got the first, second was okay, and improved himself a little bit, but did not push him up the order. And with 4 minutes left, he has to hurry back into the pits in case he wants to run again, because he needs to cross. He has to start his hot lap before the clock hits zeros if he wants to have another shot. And who else is on a hot lap? Maybe already right now before we enter the hectic last minutes of the quali. Let's have a look what Jack Rocknian is doing. Improvement of 1.5 tenths. Oh no, he already had a hot lap. He already had a hot lap. Improving his time a little bit. Should have been around 2/10 that he found, but he is still sitting in P2. So a huge gap, really huge gap from Zemo to anyone else. Jack Rockner, the only one who's able to stay within a second. Peter Simpson, we know him. He has always been among, if not the fastest driver in MIS, but he just had too many mistakes in Season 1. What was, in the end, what costed him the championship. And I talked to him at the beginning of the season and he said he's looking for a bit more consistency, and now at the moment it looks like he might be right on track for that. So before we enter the hectic phase, the hectic fight for the pole position, let's have a look what Nevis Ekic is doing. And to the E, sitting in P11, can he push into the top 10? He cannot. And with 2 minutes 15 remaining, I would suppose that Ekic is finished. Nevis Ekic maximally in P11. Who else is maybe on a hot lap? Actually, it looks like it's only Ryan Price right now who's on a hot lap. And let's have a look what the second Mercedes driver is doing. On here in the first sector, coming to the end of sector 1 here, and a little bit of improvement, 0.123, his improvement in sector 1. Let's ride on board with him here through the fast turns of sector 2. Oh, he didn't catch it correctly, he didn't catch it in a good way. That has ruined his hot lap, I would like to suppose. No improvement possible for him. Yes, he lost the time he won in sector 1. Behind him, Grimo, Mark Goodman. He's just starting his hot lap. Meanwhile, the top 4 are all of them on an out lap. Maybe let's have a look what Grimo will do here in the end of sector 1. And Grimo found some time. 3/10 of improvement. That would push him ahead a few starting rows. But for the moment, let's have a look what's going on in the battle for the pole. We see Peter Simpson here, who is the dominant leader here thus far in this qualifying. Can he push the limit a little bit further still? Sector 1 and... No improvement for him. What is Jack Rockner doing? He has just started the lap. Let's jump through the drivers. Dominic Walsh in desperate need of points here in this race event. No improvement for him in sector 1. Jaron Vanderbrill is finished. Blake Gary, let's stay with him for a moment as he is very close to the end of the lap. Meanwhile, Captain Infinity, Sam Clark, has pushed ahead up into P6, showing his teammate what is possible in the McLaren here. And Blake Gary is finished in P7. So let's jump to our leaders race. Dominic Walsh, no improvement at the end of sector 2. Can he find some time here in Forosol and at least try to push ahead of his brother Tom Walsh? He can't. Tom in front of Tom. Kantan pushing into P3. Very late. Second starting row for Kantan. And what is Jack Rockner doing? He is and stays in P2. In P2. So, as we see the checkered flags increasing, we are more or less, I would like to say, through qualifying, and Seymour Simpson did it again. Congratulations already to Peter Simpson for once again a pole position for him in front of Jack Rockner, and then Kantan in third. Good result for those three boys. Especially, I would like to say, of course, the pole, the dominant time from Simo and Zemixna Jagrognan. He is definitely on an uprise, on an upwind lately. You could really see and feel his results improving over the last few race events. We are now still waiting for the game to officially finish the qualifying. And there it is, the official quali finish. And here is our starting grid for this race. Peter Simpson in the lead, followed by Jack Rognian and Khan Tan. Then, wow, what a great result for Andrew Mond in 4th. 5th, Tom Walsh. 6th, Tom Walsh. The Walsh's starting row. Jane van de Bril in 7, P8, Sam Clark. 9, Blake Gary. 10, Mike Taylor. P11 for Mark Goodman. P12, Stuart McDonald. 13, Nevis Ekic. 14th only for our no raceline driver Mikko Caruso. In 15, David Lawson. P16 only for Ricky Kuau. P17 for Ryan Price. And in last position, we see Mercy Man, that is Martin Ward. So our drivers, haha, here is the rain. Here is the rain. It is rainy, not soaked, no totally monsoon rain, but wet, I would like to say. Our drivers now have 30 seconds of time to get their setup in and their tire strategy, and I will be back with you in a moment. So here we are in our installation lab 0 of 36. And yeah, a lot of things now to talk about. A lot of things that can be must be some basis for this race. Because first thing, the tire strategy, we will all start on inters. So there is no DRS, at least not as long as it is wet in the race. Second thing is the Parc Fermé rule, because we know that after the qualifying, the setup you use is frozen. You cannot change it anymore, at least not beside a few small little tweaks. And that means that some of the quali results might have been a bit better or a bit worse, because drivers have used their dry setup in the quali and now will struggle in the race as it's wet, or the other way around, because drivers used their wet setup in the quali and struggled in the quali and then will be good now in the race. So that all we will have to watch, and the answer we will receive from these 18 drivers in the next approximately 50 minutes. And as far as I know, I will have a few special guests here tonight in our stream. So let me have a moment and greet them in my native tongue. Herzlichen guten Abend an all die deutschen Zuschauer, die heute dabei sind. Und ich hoffe, ihr kommt mit dem Englisch einigermaßen klar und werdet das Rennen trotzdem genießen. Here we are in our starting grid. All our drivers more or less all of our drivers. One is still missing. Are in their starting box. And the 5 red lights, we can't see them but we hear them. The race in Mexico is on. Go, go, go. And good start from Peter Simpson. Followed by Kantan. Here we see it. Kantan, Jack Rognian, both very close to Simpson. All the drivers into turn 1. We see a first tag. But in the background of the field, everything went rather smoothly. At least no big accidents. Didn't see any debris fly off. So it looks rather clean from the start. Here into the next chicane phase. Very close. Cannot run wheel to wheel. Even though those two drivers showed us right here. Didn't know who it was. We see a lot of sliding here in the wet conditions. The drivers will need to have a few laps to get adopted to it, especially here in these medium and fast turns. Well, we saw, who was it? Tom Walsh sliding a lot here on the exit of turn 12. And McLaren against Williams into Photosol. It's Kantan against Sam Clark. While we see Sam Clark cut back inside, wheel to wheel, and wheel to wheel into the last turn. Sam Clark looks like he would be in the lead, but no, Kantan counted it. So first lap is in. Don't get. Okay, let's focus on this first as we see a threesome fight here into the first turn, led by Sam Clark, followed by Kantan and Jarne de Briel. And Kantan, what's going on? Kantan managed to shake off Jarne de Briel. So I wanted to say, please do not get confused of the table on the left side. It's always running up and down in the second, in lap 2, but will be correct as soon as we are in the next lap, when it's then really lap 3. And so, what's going on? We see Peter Simpson still leading in front of Jack Rognian and Tom Walsh, and Captain Infinity Sam Clark had really a good start. So let's analyze the starting phase a little bit as we see. Where's the menu? There it is, that I was searching. So we see a -2 from Kantan dropping into 5th, while Sam Clark has won 4 positions. Another +3, good start from Mike Taylor. And the big losers of the start was Andrew Mont, Dominic Walsh dropping by 4 and 3 positions. And Blake Gary, who dropped down by 5 into P14. And Nevis Ikic, not a good start too. And now as we are in lap 3, we see Simo has already crawled away by 1.6, 1.7 seconds. Gap increasing on Rognian. And Kantan, his maybe number 1 rival for the championship. Can he get closer to Sam Clark? I mentioned it. The rundown from the start to turn 1 is very long. So if you do not have a clean getaway, this could be very costly. And that supposedly happened to Kantan and maybe Blake Gary too. I think we did not see anyone in the pit lane after lap 1. Let's have a look about that. No penalties yet, and yes, no stops. No stop, so there has not been a crash or tag or no damage to anyone. That is definitely a sign of quality of our racing league. And this group right here would be in dry conditions, it would be a big DRS fighting group, especially here on this very long straight. But no DRS, of course, in rainy conditions. So the drivers will have to settle it somehow else. We can see that Sam Clark is pulling a little bit away, so it looks like, it seems like Kantan has a bit more of downforce. That should give him some extra speed and grip in the turns, but is costly on the straight, and that happened just here. Kantan came out of turn 2 better than Sam Clark, and he's wheel to him, cut back inside. Oh, maybe a little bit of attack there, but no wing damage for him. And oh no, there has been some big trouble as our host is migrating. Everyone is leaving the league, so it seems like there has been some big trouble, and we will have to restart the race. Sadly. So this race winner is not official, of course, and I will have to leave right now in order to not be forced to restart the stream. I hope that everything will be fine. This is sadly a big mistake. I don't know if it's a mistake or a bug by the game, but I am just happy that my stream is still working, that I don't have to restart it. So I will try to get back into the correct lobby, and yeah, this is a little bit of a commercial break, you could maybe say. I will be back with you in a moment. Here we are again, back in Mexico. This is a new situation for me. Something new that has happened. I have not seen such a mistake by the game yet, but okay. I'm very happy that Codemasters creates new faults and failures weekly. Yeah, I was told that the race is just going on. It was more or less only me who dropped out, so okay. We have just missed a few laps. Actually, nothing too new. Nothing big new, I would like to say. We are now in lap 7, and Peter Simpson is still in the lead, followed now by Thomas Walsh, Jack Rocknian, Jarne Vanderbilt, and Sam Clark. So from the first group, only Khan was in need of a pit stop. Ironically, both the Williamses, Gary and Khan, were in the pits. I will have to ask them if there was a problem between those two boys. I can hardly imagine, as they were so far away of each other. We see a bunch of pit stops here now, but everyone is still stopping for inters. So the pit stops that come in now do not look like weather caused. Yeah, anyway, here we are with our leader, Peter Simpson, comfortably ahead by over 5 seconds. Ahead of Thomas Walsh in his racing point. And then both the Ferrari, Jarne Vanderbilt and Jack Rocknian. Yeah, I had both these boys in my driver's interviews, and I was asking both of them how they see their each situation in the Ferrari while Rocknian is pitting. Because Ferrari is actually not a team who has two equal drivers. There has always been a number 1 and number 2 in Ferrari. No matter which time we think back, if it was Alonso, if it was Vettel, if it's now Leclerc, if it was Michael Schumacher or whoever, there has always been a number 1 driver. But none of those two boys dare to call themselves the number 1 driver. So probably the overall standings and the race results will settle this question for the ongoing rest of the season, I would like to suppose. So we see a few more pit stops coming in. Everyone is still stopping for inters. Half the field now running on fresh intermediates. First one on fresh inters is Rocknian on P9. I'm watching the times. Looks like he might be able to catch up a bit to the drivers ahead. At least he can catch up to Ricky Kuau in the Renault in P8. And now, yes, Jarne Vanderbilt pitting too. So we have seen him driving behind his teammate. He was maybe waiting if the other Ferrari driver would pit earlier, and Blake Gary is out. Blake Gary is out, and that does not look good for him. He is right here behind the wall. Let's see if Simo can get there fast enough to depict it to us. No, he cannot. The Mexican track marshals were very fast right here on this place. The Williams of Blake Gary crashed. I suppose that he crashed. And while we ride on board with Simo here, he is one of the last drivers who is still on his used inters from the start. Just him and Kuau and Ekic, the only who drive still on their starting set of tire. Let's stay with him here for a moment and see if he is the next one to pit. It is still a bit drizzling. It's not a big rain, but it's still wet, at least wet enough not to switch to soft or to slick tire. And Simo is in. Simo into the pit. His lead over his teammate Ricky Kuao with 29 seconds. Very comfortable. So that he should easily be able to remain the leader. He's still out on the track. Ah, yeah, and the drivers behind him have pitted too. And now he's back in the lead ahead of Thomas Walsh by 7 seconds. Looks like another very dominant, strong performance by Simo. Let's see if he can keep it up. If he can stay out of the error zone like he is in Season 2, unlike in Season 1. Yeah, so what else is going on? We see a big group here that is led by Tom Walsh, followed by Dom Walsh and Vicky Kuao and Rognian and Van de Bril. So this is the battle for, actually more or less indirectly the battle for second, with both the Walshes leading and both the Ferrari following in the last 2 positions, at least in this group. Ahead, D-Killer, Ricky Kuao, only part of this group because he didn't stop yet, what he probably should do very soon. No, he does not. Kuao still stays out. He might try to do 1 stop less. That is maybe the only way, the only chance he sees to make up his bad starting position. He is fast enough on the straight to hold it, so Rognian was unable to overtake him on the long straight. You saw it. And here just the same again. No chance for Zemixna, at least not on the straight, but here in the turns the old and used up tires of Ricky Kuao pay the price, and therefore now finally Rogner was able to pull ahead. Will his teammate follow him? Ricky Kuao really struggling here in these turns on his old tires. He needs to let the second Ferrari pass, and Sam Clark right the next one in the McLaren. So question number 1, will Kuao pit now? Question 2, if not, can Clark overtake him on the long straight? No pit stop. Aha, there he goes. There he is into the pits very late, but he finally did it. And Sam Clark, what does he do? Does he sigh in relief that he is past Kuao, or will he be angry because he's now 2.2 seconds away from both the Ferraris? Kantan in last position. Sadly, I didn't catch that. Sadly. Race is not over yet, of course. We are now at the 1/3 mark of the race. But he's far away of his rival in the overall standings. On the other hand, Simo will be smiling as one of his biggest rivals does not look like he would be in a point scoring situation for tonight. And here we are with both the Ferrari. This could turn into an interesting battle. Rognan and Van de Bril, they are from their possibilities. They are a very equal duo. So it's not like Alonso Massa, not like Schumacher Barrichello. It's rather, yeah. Let's have a look what it is. Let's have a look if it's maybe a Leclerc and Vettel running into each other. It's not. At least not in this turn. All of that costed them half a second or maybe even more. Sam Clark, 1.3 seconds now behind Rognan. Van der Bril looked like he was able to pull away a little bit. Let's stay with those two and see if he is really faster or if he was just better accelerating out of the turn when he overtook his teammate. Van der Bril is faster, so 1.6 seconds now even the gap on his teammate, who he was chasing for multiple laps before the pit stop. So it really looks like that the faster Ferrari was allowed to go ahead, was allowed for good to go ahead. And what else is going on? We see a three-man battle group right here for P8, 9, 10. David Lawson leading, that's our host, in front of Mark Goodman, and then Caruso, the rockstar. Nico Caruso, who by the way is not called Rockstar by Jeopardy, he is a music creator. Just search his name on Spotify and you will know why. But it does not look like he could get closer or even past Grimo. Oh, Ryan Price is out. Ryan Price is out. Ryan Price has retired from the race. He went into the pit lane and stepped out of his car there. So fair maneuver, not to cause safety car phase because of retiring. And we see the next fight going on between Mike Taylor and Kantan. What happened there? Kantan was running a little bit wide, maybe a bit of a force to the grass in order to avoid a collision, maybe. Kantan is pushing. Kantan is riding his Williams on the limits. So let's get back to our three-man group right here. On the verge to start the long straight, David Lawson, Grimo and Rockstar. But it does not look like if Caruso would be able to attack. We see a battle now, wheel to wheel, Red Bull against AlphaTauri. Next turn is in favor of Lawson, maybe a little bit of attack there. That brings in the Rockstar, better acceleration maybe for Caruso now. Next turn in favor now of Rockstar and wheel to wheel into the chicane. Now favor for Grimo. Favor for Grimo now again. Favor for Grimo again. Wheel to wheel racing. Caruso taking a wide lane to avoid a crash, and now into the fast turns. That is not possible. Wheel to wheel, and Caruso backs down. Hot face here between Goodman and Caruso, while we see a vivid battle going on a little bit further ahead too. There he is. There he is. I was searching him. There is Captain Infinity, wheel to Rognan. We have seen those two drivers switch their names and positions multiple times during this lap, but I depicted the AlphaTauri versus Red Bull, and now we are within This fight, Ferrari versus McLaren, slipstream for Rognan. Who will break later? Ah, nice fight here between those two boys. Clean fighting. Bit of a slide from Infinity, but still the captain stays ahead. Jack Rognan, Smixner, by the way, has the nickname of Torpedo Jack. You can guess why. So let's see if the Torpedo will, check the captain. Not now. Not yet. So it looks like that Sam Clark is and will stay in front. Let's have a look how the gap will look like at the end of Photozol. Better acceleration for Clark, no chance, and have a look, Van der Brill, Jane Van der Brill. A few laps ago he overtook Rognan, his teammate, and now he pushed ahead over Sam Clark and now even Dominic Walsh. So Jane Van der Brill in the rain, he raced himself now onto the podium. Great result from him in the last few laps, as we are now in the midway mark of the race. The threesome battle group we have just watched, Lawson, Grimo, Rockstar, is not existing anymore. Grimo is almost 2 seconds away from Caruso, and David Lawson was in need of another pit stop. Lawson in P12. And the fact that Lawson has pitted for fresh inters, that tells me, supposedly, that we will not see a dry race here, so we might not see DRS being activated here on this Wednesday evening. That will not happen next week, because next week we head to the desert of Bahrain. So if it should be rainy there, yeah, I will post a video of a shoey. Just like this guy did, Dominic Walsh, our reigning champion from season 1. He said if he wins the championship he will do a shoey, and he did so. And if we should have rain in Bahrain, I will do so too. So after his second pit stop, he is in P10, right ahead of Ricky Kuau, right behind his teammate Nevis Ekic. Let's have a look ahead a little bit. Here we see Sam Clark still or again battling with a Ferrari. I suppose that as soon as this race is over, Sam Clark will not want to see the color red for the rest of his week. Behind him, Andrew Mont racing in P6, very silent race. P6 would be a good result, even though he might be a little bit disappointed after his very good qualifying result. And now it does not look like, as if Sam Clark would be able to pull ahead or attack Rognan and both go simultaneously into the pits. Only 9 laps possible on Inters. So we will really see a lot of pit stops here in this race. And Kantan has spun. Kantan is still racing, and he spun again on probably heated tires. No, he was... I got it. He was trying to get in the right direction and did a 360, 720, 1080 or something like that. And now he is back in the right direction, but his tires are too hot to have grip here in the wet, slippery conditions. He's driving like on eggs. He will return to his pits. Yes, he does, and get himself a fresh set of inters. Then, oh, almost destroying the little stick on the pit entry. Oh, and Kantan is out, so Kantan has decided to not pursue this race. He has now driven actually into his garage and stepped out of his car. Good evening to you. Glad that you were with us. Very happy that you are back now in your new flat. I hope you like your new flat. And likewise, I hope that your next results will be better than again. And while all that has happened, very silently, Jane van der Brijl has now crawled up right into the slipstream of Thomas Walsh. So van der Brijl is not only onto the podium, he is now even chasing P2 after coming from somewhere of the upper midfields. And who else had another pit stop? Mark Goodman, Andrew Mont, both had another pit stop. Sam Clark did so too, so second pit stop window. But if we assume that Inters will not hold longer than maybe 9-10 laps, we are now in lap 21. If it's not getting dry, we will see yet from every driver another pit stop for Inters then. At least one more. Both for P2 come into the pits. This will be interesting. Which one's pit crew is working faster? Ferrari here? Or Racing Point a bit further down the pit lane? Tom Walsh is still in the lead. Yes, he is. Thomas Walsh still leading. But van der Brijl looked a lot faster. Van der Brijl has a good pace here in the wet. And this was maybe what I assumed, what I said in our installation lab. He maybe had his car set up a bit more towards the wets and therefore wasn't as fast as many others in the quali. And now, as it is rainy and slippery, his setup pays off. And he is just 3/10 away from the second position. But I suppose... No, it's actually it is already safe that everyone will need to have another pit stop. Because as we have seen thus far, no one is able to run longer than 10 laps on Inters. Simo now does 11, okay. But not the 14 laps that are still necessary in this lap. That means if it stays wet, everyone will have to stop for Inters again. If it gets dry, everyone has to stop for softs. For slick tire then again. Oh, and Andrew Mont has spun. Let's have a short look at what's happened to Andrew Mont. He dropped the position to Larsen. And now maybe to his teammate. Yes, he does. Grimo just said yesterday in the driver interview that he likes his teammates so much, and this maybe was AlphaTauri teamwork to let him through. But he has stabilized himself, no big troubles, no front wing damage for Andrew Mont. So let's jump back to Jarne van der Brijl, who has just started the fight. He was ahead of Tom Walsh for a glimpse or two. But now it is back the Racing Point leading the Ferrari. Still valid fight between them two. Vivid fight for P2. They are both on the same strategy, so they have to get it settled on the wet track. And have a look how close Van der Brill is. If he had a screwdriver, he could repair the gearbox of Tom Walsh. He could take a taste of the BWT water filter on the rear wing of Tom Walsh. He looks like he is so much faster, but he just cannot get next or even ahead of him. Let's see what the long straight will bring us this time. Of course, still or again no DRS for this wet race. Van der Brill, the Belgium, searching the slipstream. Tom Walsh defending on the inside line. Later break from Van der Brill. He gets around the turn. Now the battle lane for Van der Brill. Now Walsh in favor again, and Walsh has squashed him off again, but this is not over yet. Next attack from Van der Brill. Oh, he locks both front tires, but he got it done. He pushed ahead, he got it done. Very aggressive later on the break, dangerous in the wets, but he managed to hang on to it. And all that brought in Tom Walsh. So Tom now racing his brother Tom. And immediately Van der Brill is pulling ahead. That's really amazing to watch how much he is really faster. So Van der Brill really the fastest driver here in the wet condition. Have a look at Mixner, the Ferrari teammate. He before the formerly pit stop, they were close together. Van der Brill pushed ahead. He fought his teammate. And now have a look how far they are away of each other, and Andrew Mond is out. I try to get it depicted. Let's see if Mike Taylor can bring us there fast enough. There is wrecked Alpha Tauri on the left hand side. There he is. There he is. Very far away from the racing line. So Andrew Mond has lost it and is out. After such a good qualifying from Andrew Mond, he lost it 12 laps before the end of the race. And someone has spun. Was that Sam Clark? Yes, it was Sam Clark, Captain Infinity, just getting his McLaren out of the grass. He dropped the position to Rocknean, Jack Rocknean, back in P5. Must feel like a little bit of a disappointment from Rocknean. So both the Ferraris have totally different kind of races. Rocknean qualified good and is ranked back a little bit here in the race, while Van der Brill qualified okay and is marching through the field. Let's have a look at the positions changed in compared to the start. That's just what we see. Rocknean -3, Van der Brill +5, +8 David Lawson, biggest winner of the plus-minus statistics. Actually, there is only 2 drivers with a minus. Mike Taylor dropped 1 and Rocknean -3. Let's have a short look about the penalty situation. A bunch of +3s, so Tom Walsh, Caruso, Martin Ward with a +3, Mark Goodman, Grimo with a double +3, and multiple penalties for Mike Taylor. There he is, the second racing point, 11 seconds. That means he had twice a 3 seconds and a +5 for supposedly speeding in the pit lane. He's under pressure here from the second Renault, Ricky Kuao. Kuao will get the position anyway at the end of the race because of the penalty situation. But I suppose he knows it, but still he wants to settle it on the track, I suppose. So, where is some racing action going on? Maybe in this group we see Rockstar Caruso chasing Grimo Goodman and David Lawson, our host. Yellow in sector 1. Something happened at the end of the long straight, but already vanished. So, I would like to suppose that for Caruso, who we ride on his shoulder here, I suppose this race feels like a little bit of a disappointment. I mentioned it earlier, I talked to him earlier today, and he sounded very confident about racing without racing line. And he said he had some good training results and he feels pretty good about Mexico. And then probably a P9 and only 2 points in his hands right now might feel like a little bit of a disappointment. It seems or feels like Lawson ahead could pull away a slight little bit, while Caruso is faster than Grimo Goodman ahead, but without DRS, no chance, or not as a good chance to overtake here in Forosol. There is actually really zero chance to do so in case the other driver doesn't commit a mistake and gift away the position to you. And Goodman into the pits. Mark Goodman, after only 5 laps on his Inters, now will take his final pit stop as it is still drizzling. Yes, they opted for Inters, so we will have a totally wet race from start to finish. A wet race. That is interesting. That is definitely interesting. I'm not sure if I ever had in my TV broadcast career a race where it rained completely from start to the end. I'm not sure if I have that yet. And ironically, that is in Mexico, in a country where I could expect this should not happen, at least not compared to, like, let's say England or Belgium or Netherlands. Spa and Zandvoort are known that there is always a rain possible. Yeah, and with 7 laps to go, Simo is still very comfortable in his lead. Let's have a look now. There is some pit stop action going on. The Alfa Romeo of Tom Walsh and the Ferrari of Jack Rognian simultaneously in the pits. The Walsh stays ahead, wasn't even close. Nevis Ekic, Dominic Walsh's teammate, even between them, so Ekic could shield him a little bit against Rognian, maybe. So, and now the top 5. Let's browse through our field here a little bit. We see Peter Simpson, of course, in the lead. Didn't commit a mistake. Another very clean race for him, or from him again. Ahead of Jarne Mandebrill, who pushed through the field. In third, Thomas Walsh. Another podium, P3, that's right where he sits in the overall standings too. With these points, he would then jump ahead of Kantan up into P2 of our overall standings. P4, a great result for our reserve Sam Clark. Captain Infinity has shown now the second week. Oh, and right when I say it, I wanted to say he showed us great results now in 2 consecutive weeks and has proven that he's more than just a reserve. And when I say it, right when I say it, he ruins his race. Yeah, final pit stop from him. Is there something wrong with his car? It felt like he had a puncture maybe. So that drops him out of the points. Yeah, good race, but couldn't finish his quite good result in the end. So there's a new order in our top 5. We finished at P3. Then there was in P4 Captain Infinity, Sam Clark, just a few moments ago. Now Clark is back to 12th, and 4th is Mirko Caruso. I talked about him, that his race might feel like a little bit of a disappointment, and all of a sudden he is in P4. So full bunch load of points for him, at least possible. His inters are 7 laps old. We still have exactly 5 laps to go. Let's see if he can make it on this set of tire to the end of the race. Dominic Walsh could have a bit of an advantage tire-wise. Because he is on the faster tire, on the newer tire. He has already closed the gap by 2/10. Let's see if that continues. He might get close to Caruso right at the very end of the race. And in P6, Nevis Ekic, who started a lot further behind, but he's now under pressure by 7th Jack Rocknan. Oh, have a look. We see Mike Taylor, who is using full wets. Taylor on the blue tire, the monsoon rain tire. I don't think that that was really his intention. I can just suppose that he already had so many pit stops that he ran out of inters. 4 stops. How much is it? I think you have 3 sets of inters. 3 or 4. So Taylor has to finish the race on wets. That will be a big disadvantage. And right when we talk about the tire situation, we see why Rocknan is called Torpedo Jack. Late lunge ahead of, tried to power ahead of Ekic, who was struggling then at the end of Forosol. Jack Rocknan, incredible driver. Always in for some racing action on the track, and we have seen the first spin of Mike Taylor on the wrong set of tire. Ooh, this will be interesting. This could be a lot of racing action at the end of this race, but Rocknan got the 3 seconds penalty, and he's wheel to wheel now to Ekic, and now he pushed through finally. But Nevis Ekic has some minor front wing damage on the left hand side. The end plate is missing. That was maybe the reason why Ekic was so slow, or was generally slower compared to Rocknan, and one of the reasons why Torpedo Jack pushed through then in the end. And now Mike Taylor has decided to switch to softs, so one driver, at least one driver, at least for one pit stop, we will see slick tire today. He was running out of inters, and instead of driving on wets, he now runs softs. Okay, why not? I think how it looks like, I think the track is rather closer to slicks than to full wets. Anyway, he will still be struggling a lot now Inters is probably the perfect tire for now. And if you don't have any more Inters left, that is really a problem. Yeah, so we were browsing through the field. We have stopped now in P7, Davis Ekic P8. Here is David Larsen, who is still ahead of Grimo. Intense battle between Red Bull and AlphaTauri. Now as we get closer to the end of the race, let's have another look at the penalty situation. Both of these drivers are penalized, but Grimo a little bit more, and a late attack on Larsen, and he gets through for the moment. And he will stay through. But David Larsen has 4 seconds of penalty less than Grimo, so Larsen will be ranked ahead of Grimo anyway in the end. And now Mike Taylor has retired, so after trying multiple different tire sets, he has decided to let it be for tonight. Yeah, I can understand that. And so we are now within 12 drivers for the last 2.5 laps. We are right on board here with Ricky Kuao. And behind him in P11 is Sam Clark, Captain Infinity, who was just, let's say, 5-6 laps ago, he was, let's say, at least close to a podium, and then ruined it all at once. And in 12th position, let's browse through completely, let's have a look at those two boys. There is Captain Infinity and Martin Ward. Who's getting a lap by, I suppose, Dominic Walsh? Yes, it was. And somehow I missed it. I suppose there was another pit stop. As soon as of course, Thomas Walsh is in the pits. Thomas Walsh, what happened there on the pit exit? I missed it. Sadly, there is no replay option on live streams. But Thomas Walsh has dropped off the podium. I can only assume that he had some kind of problem, some kind of front wing damage, and therefore he is ranked back into P10, and that gets a podium at least possible for Mirko Caruso. I talked about him multiple times now today, that his race is maybe a little bit of a disappointment for him, and now he has come up into P3. He will try to make it on this set through the race. This tire is 12 laps old, so only Van de Bril ahead has older tire. Now they are the same age. And Simon is with 11 laps on his set, but Dominic Walsh is getting a lot closer. That was what I described earlier, that Dominic Walsh will have the tire advantage on Caruso, and this is the battle in the last lap. The last lap between Caruso and Dominic Walsh about the question if we will have a Walsh on the podium or not. Tom Walsh looked so safe, but he was just safe until lap 35 of 36. And right now it looks like Caruso could make it through. For the moment, let's have a look at this guy, Peter Zemo Simpson. He will finish the race, and if he has finished the race in this season, he has always won it. And there it is again, the checkered flag, first one to cross it. Peter Simpson, congratulations to him in P2. Then Jan van der Bril, great result from him. And what is happening here in this battle for P3? Same amount of penalty seconds. So penalty will not be a topic Who will stay ahead? Can Caruso make it survive for the last turn? Yes, he can. Caruso on the podium. Mirko Caruso, what a comeback race for him. Just ahead of Dominic Walsh. A good result for him, but not enough points to get his season really going. In 5th then, Nevis Ikic after a bad quali, P5. 10 points for him. Both the Alfa Romeo scoring a good amount of points. And Jack Rognian, just the other development as his teammate, from a good quali to a okay race result, and Van de Bril just the other way around. So this is now the end of the race, the real end, as we have had this little glitch or something in lap 3 or 4. Driver of the day is ruled to be Mirko Caruso. I have the honor to announce the driver of the day, who will receive an extra point, and that could be possible that I will call out the same name. Here is the virtual champagne for our 3 victors. Champagne shower for Simo and Van de Bril. Great result for all of them. All of those 3 drivers have put in a great result here tonight. And here is the final result after penalties. Simo Simpson has won it again, in front of Belgium and Jane Van de Bril and Mirko Caruso. Then in 4th, Dominic Walsh. 5, Nevis Ikic. 6, Jack Rognian. Thomas Walsh dropping off the podium very dramatically late in P7 then. P8, Ricky Kuau. P9, David Lawson. P10, Sam Clark at least getting a point. P11, Mark Goodman. 12 is the last one who managed it through the race, Mercyman Martin Ward. And not finished but still in the result is Mike Taylor. And then really DNF'd, that is Andrew Mond, Khan Tan, Ryan Price, Blake Gary, and the first who dropped out was Stuart Leonard Cam McDonald. So, away we go. The last time we see the pictures of Foro Azul, maybe the last time on this game. F1 21 incoming for sometime around midway through July. I am not sure if I will have another stream from Mexico on this game. Nevertheless, yeah, it was an exciting match, an exciting race again. Once again, a very competitive, highly quality race of the mainstream racing series. I'm Zeb Bauer and glad you were with us. If you want to be notified for our next race, just hit the subscribe button and you will get a notification next week, Wednesday, something around 2020 of my time, 7:20 p.m. of UK time. We will always start the stream approximately. The race event starts 7:30 p.m. UK or 8:30 p.m. continental time. We will head then to the desert of Bahrain. I said it, if we should have rain there again in Bahrain, I will do a shoey. And yeah, until then, I'm glad you were with us. Have a good evening. Stay safe in these times. And keep racing.